Hello, YouTube viewers. Welcome to Tuesday night power yoga. I'm Aubrey, and I always like to adjust my camera just a little bit before we go. So welcome to class, whether you're watching it live or on the replay. I'm glad you're joining. Typically, we do power flow here at CJJF, and tonight is no different. Today, I feel like we're going to do a mixture of the regular power flow and then explore some modifications and intensifications as well. So you can kind of adjust the practice to fit where you're at right now. Modifications and intensifications are always available to you. So whether you're dealing with injuries or you're feeling kind of tired or you're feeling freaking awesome and like you're ready to advance your practice, depending on the day, you might have a different need. So I'll walk through a couple more of those variations. Some poses will do the lighter version and some poses will do the intensified. So we'll just experiment with how that shows up. Get yourself situated. Let's begin in child's pose. Speaking of situated, just put my mat in the center. Here we go. Take your child's pose here with your fingers outstretched. If your forehead touches, that's great. You can give it a massage left and right. If it doesn't touch the floor, that's okay too. Just experience the stretch right here. Let's move to downward facing dog. This is the first down dog of class, so take a moment to work out any kinks, pedal your feet if that feels nice. Remember to breathe. And take your feet to the top of your mat for ragdoll pose. Today in ragdoll, take your hands on the back of your head. So you've got a little extra weight there as you sway side to side. For me, I consider this an intensification of ragdoll. You might feel it differently. Just kind of decide. Regular version is where you grab your elbows. Other option is grab the back of your head. So this whole practice will be about seeing what feels best for your body. Just experiment with that. Take a deep exhale out. Let that go and stand all the way up into extended mountain pose. Press your hands together, take them down in front of your heart, and let's settle in to start class officially with one chant of Om together. Breathe out first. Inhale deeply. Om. Let's begin our flow. Extended mountain pose. Breathe in. Forward fold. Breathe out. Halfway lift. Take a couple breaths here. So we're going to stay in this position to experiment with modifications and intensifications. So you can have your hands up high on your thighs if that feels more supportive for your shoulders to squeeze in. You can have your hands on your shins or your fingertips touching the floor with bent knees. Whatever helps you hug your shoulders close and press your chest forward. You see what feels best. Take a deep breath. Bow down, let it go. We'll do that 2 more times with breath. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. 1 more. Inhale, lift halfway, squeeze your shoulders. Step back for plank pose. So we're getting ready for chaturanga. If you want to take chaturanga push-up on your knees, awesome. If you don't, stay lifted in your plank. Let's go together. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, bend your elbows, low push-up. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe in deeply. Breathe out all the way. And let's keep flowing. Come up to your tippy toes. Bend your knees down low, walk or jump forward. Take a halfway lift to your variation. Forward fold, exhale. Extended mountain pose, sweep your arms up. Forward fold, sweep them down. Halfway lift, take an inhale, shoulders together. Step or jump back right to your chaturanga, so take your low push-up. Upward facing dog, lift up. Downward dog, press back. We'll breathe for a reset. Inhale here. Clear it out with an exhale. And let's move. Lift up your heels high. Bend your knees low. Practice your jump to the top. Halfway lift, inhale. Forward fold, exhale. Extended mountain. To intensify, make it a back bend. Bow forward, breathe out. Halfway lift, inhale. Come down, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, breathe. Downward dog, exhale. Final round of sun A, let's go for it. Come up to your toes. Take your knees, bend them low, launch to the top, halfway lift, inhale. Bow down, exhale. Extended mountain, straight up or lean it back. Forward fold, breathe out. Halfway up. Jump or step, you go for it. Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Take a second to breathe in and out. Reset your pose. So we're going to move to sun salutation B. And again, working on some ways to modify and intensify so you can explore what feels good for your body here. Go ahead and transition to the top of your mat. Practice jumping forward or walking. Halfway lift when you get there. Forward fold on the exhale. Chair pose, have a seat. So in chair, what you're attempting to do is sit down low enough where you feel some burn happening for sure. But you can check this if you take your fingertips to the floor, sit back into your heels. This is where your chair should be. If you're sitting up here, that is a modification. That's cool too. You want to keep it intense if that's what your body wants. Just know that you can take it to that level. That's there for you. Stay with your breathing for 5, 4. Can you sit down any lower? 3, 2. Forward fold, straighten your legs out. Halfway lift. Come through, chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Warrior 1 with your right foot forward. So to modify your warrior 1, you would step your back foot closer up. To intensify warrior 1, keep scooting it back. And all the while, no matter where your legs are front to back, you're attempting to turn your hips square. They may never get there, that's okay. Create that action of square hips. Arms to the sky. Slow, deep breaths here, y'all. We'll take one more together. Breathe in. Take your hands down to the floor. So here's where you have a chance to intensify. To make this a little bit harder, 2 options. When you're stepping back, rather than stepping back with your hips up high, Step back, keeping your hips low in a plank position. That's option 1. Option 2, to make this transition a little more intense, you can keep your hips low, plank body, but keep your right toes off the floor as you go to chaturanga. So here we go, chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Very nice. Let's catch the other side. Warrior 1, left foot up to the top. So go to your depth of the pose. Only you know what's appropriate for you. Create that turning of your hip bones towards the front of your mat. We'll stay for a bit longer, so notice if you're getting comfortable, it's time to scoot your front foot further forward. Take an inhale. On your exhale, hands down, you decide. You can take it easy by pushing your hips back, or you can keep them nice and low. Let's go to chaturanga. Breathe out. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Couple more sun bees. Let's go. Heels up, knees low. Walk or jump to the top of your mat, halfway lift. Bow forward, let your head relax. Have a seat for chair. Your depth. Go for something that feels right. On your breath out, forward fold. Halfway lift, inhale. Chaturanga, exhale. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Warrior 1, right foot forward. Breathe in. We'll stay for 1 exhale. Another in-breath to lift your chest. This time when you breathe out, come down, transition, chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Down dog. Second side, warrior 1. Step forward with your left foot. We'll breathe out here. Breathe in 1 more round. Exhale, come through, chaturanga, your depth. Upward facing dog. Down dog. 1 more cycle. So to modify this transition forward, kind of makes sense. You would walk forward nice and slow or nice and intentionally. To intensify, you practice your jumping. So here's the chance. You can go for it. Heels up, knees down. Jump to your hands if that works for you. Halfway lift. Exhale, bow forward. Chair pose, 1 breath, lowest ever. Fold it out, breathe out. Halfway high, squeeze in your shoulders. Travel back and down, chaturanga. You can always take your knees. Inhale, upward. Exhale, downward. Right foot, warrior 1. We're only going for 1 breath in, and then we go right back, chaturanga, modified or intensified. Upward dog, downward dog. Second side, warrior 1. Inhale, rise. Exhale, flow, chaturanga, your style. Upward dog, breathe. Downward dog, clear it out. All right, here we go. So anchor down through your fingers. Stretch them out nice and wide. That's important no matter which variation you're up to. Anytime your hands are on the ground, have your fingers starfished out. So let's keep going through. Take your right leg up towards the ceiling. This is 3-legged dog. So we're gonna move to some other options here. 3-legged dog, take your knee to your nose. So to intensify, or actually to modify, you can have your knee on the floor. That's one way to do this. You can practice just lifting up a little bit and setting it down when you get tired. To intensify, let's start again in 3-legged dog. So I'll show you again. Reset with your right leg up. Pull your knee to your nose. And if you're intensifying, you can start taking your knee to the right and the left, almost like a mountain climber without stepping back. So a little extra core. You decide. We're gonna hold here for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, 1. Step through, low crescent lunge. Now we're gonna take it down a notch. I say down, but really all the modifications have their own perks, I guess. So in this situation, a little less balance, at least in my experience, but a lot more stretch through my back leg. So you can stay in this modified crescent. If you're feeling nice and strong and you want to go further, you can draw your knee off the floor, regular crescent lunge. We'll stay here for a couple more rounds. You have the option always to scoot your back foot further back. Take your hands together at heart center. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, twist to the right. So this right here with elbow against your leg, I would consider this the Intensified because it's a little bit more rotated. If you want to practice the modification, you can stay upright. Again, modification doesn't necessarily mean easier or not as good for you. So you decide which one feels best for your body right here. If you're in this variation with hands to heart, now's the time to open them. Your bottom hand can go inside or outside your front leg. And now we move, take your hands down to the floor. This is that chance to practice stepping back, maybe keeping your hips low, foot off the floor. Let's move to chaturanga, take it down. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Stretch your fingers out once again. Let's move to three-legged dog on the left. So remember, you can always have your knees down or one knee. Just experiment if you need to modify. We're going to take it through knee to nose. And we'll hold it here. So you can decide, hold it up. You can tap and lift, or you can start creating more rotation by moving to the sides. Keep going for it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step, low crescent. Adjust your front foot to where it feels sturdy. And again, from here, you can stay in this variation if you're enjoying that bonus stretch. For a little extra, right knee comes off the floor. Both of them are so good for you. So no worries with whatever one you're doing. You can also modify your crescent lunge, kind of like the warrior one, where you take your stance a little bit more narrow. Either way, you want your front knee right over your ankle. So if you're keeping that, awesome. Here we go for the twist. Hands to heart. Inhale. Exhale, twist. Option to stay with your elbow against your leg, or you can keep your heart open to the left side. There are more ways to intensify this position. You can actually do a half bind. There is a full bind if you're feeling really bendy. For me, it's not there today. So just listen to what you've got. Explode your arms open if you had them pressed together. Bottom hand where it feels right. Take a breath. Both hands meet the floor. Chaturanga, your own variation. Upward facing dog, breathe. Downward facing dog, let it go. Take your right leg up to the sky, three-legged dog. Bend your knee, open your hip, and we'll stay here for a moment so you can make some hip circles. You can stretch your leg out long. Anything that feels like it's helping you stretch out that hip joint here. Next level, you can stay here if you like. Next step would be to flip your dog all the way around. So when you're flipping your dog, reset your feet as wide as your hips, press into the mat, get your hips up towards the ceiling. Someday, you might be able to turn your bottom hand around and get into a wheel position. No pressure, just know that that's there. Okay, now for the fun part, coming around, downward facing dog. Side plank on your right hand. So for side plank, modifications would be forearm on the floor. In some cases, this might feel harder. The other option would be knee on the floor to modify. This one might feel good even if you don't typically modify. I can just feel a little more stability and more openness through my side here. No matter which one you're doing, you can take your top leg up away from the mat. You got it. Hold it and breathe. 3, 2, 1. Downward facing dog. Come back through. And we'll take a breath to reset. Inhale through your nose. Open your mouth. Let it go. And then lift up your left leg, three-legged dog. Bend your knee, open your hip, make those circles, or hold the position if that feels better. Explore what your pose is right here. Next step, if you choose to take it, is flip dog. So you take your foot all the way over, set it next to your other foot as wide as your hips are, and then press towards the ceiling. No matter what your pose looks like, doesn't matter. Make sure you're breathing. And then someday intensifying all the way over to wheel. Takes a lot of practice. Let's come back. Downward facing dog. Set up for side plank. Left hand down. Or left forearm. So I showed you the ways to modify that first side. You guys know intensifications would be top leg up. Maybe you grab your big toe. You don't have to straighten your leg all the way. That is another way to intensify. Other options, tree legs, moving your gaze up. Whatever you're going for is awesome. Go to your fullest expression. Breathe here. Downward facing dog, press back. And walk your feet to the top of your mat. Grab onto your big toes. On your exhale, let your head drop. So have your knees bent enough to where your upper body touches your thighs here. This is ultimately safer than legs out straight. So you can even see and maybe feel, if you lock out your legs, your whole back rounds. Instead, bend your knees so you have some more access to lift your tailbone up. Let go of your toes. Next step is gorilla pose. Slide your hands underneath the soles of your feet. Let your head drop down. Release your hands. Let's go for crow pose. So modification for crow is this right here, yogi squat. So this might be intense enough. You can certainly stay there if that's it for you. Crow pose, if you're taking crow, keep your tailbone lifted, your eyes looking forward. And once your feet are up, try to push them together. If you're looking to intensify your crow pose, guess what? You can lower the top of your head down and go to headstand. You can practice lifting and lowering your toes. You can also practice picking up one knee off the back of your arm, push it behind you. I am still working on that. No matter which one you're doing, come back if you lost it. We're gonna hold it for one breath in. On your breath out, jump or step back. Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Walk yourself to the top of your mats. Extended mountain when you reach the top. Wrap up for eagle pose on your right side. So take your right leg up and over, right elbow underneath. So modifications for eagle. If this feels like a lot of work for your shoulders, you can press your forearms together. You can grab your shoulders, give yourself a little bear hug. Those are some ways to still create that stretch without losing any intensity. No matter what your arms are doing, you can definitely sit down lower. See if that works for you. Extended mountain, reach up. Switch sides, eagle pose. So maybe your toes of your left foot don't wrap all the way around. That's okay. No matter the depth of your wrap, you can still squeeze your legs together. Like you can press your left shin into your right leg. Hug nice and tight. Mountain pose. Fold over. Place your left hand on your left hip. Bend your knees enough so that you can hook your peace fingers around your right big toe. So here we go. From here, put all of your weight into your left foot. On your inhale, come all the way up to standing with your right toes still in your fingers here. So this is leading into the intensification for standing leg raise. So explore this, just see what happens. So you can take your foot and try to stretch it out. You don't have to go all the way to straight. Next step from here is to take your knee out to the side and your left arm to the left. If this is not happening, you can drop back to grabbing your knee instead. If this is happening for you, you're feeling really good about it, you can take your leg and straighten it. All of those options are cool. No pressure if your body's not feeling one today. It's always worth a try. Come back to center. Now just keep your right knee up, both arms up high. Take an airplane pose. Reach your right foot back behind you. So if you ever want to modify your airplane, you can use some yoga blocks underneath your hands here. Speaking of blocks, they might be handy for half moon. You can also use a water bottle as a prop, something to bring the floor a little closer to your hand. Here's our half moon variation today. This is your standard position right here. One way to intensify, if you want it, you can bend your top knee, grab your foot or ankle. This is called sugar cane. For some people, this feels like a modification. For some, it feels like a really, really intense intensification. So it really depends on your body, where you feel open, where you feel tight, where you feel strong. So every pose is valid. Just go for the one that feels right for you. You can always just work the balance here. Take a breath. Reset both feet down. So we're going to move through that standing leg raise on the second side. Get both feet firmly planted. And now your right hand grabs your hip bone. Bend until you can grab your left big toe. Put everything you've got into your right foot. Lift yourself up. Get as stable as you can before you move. So if you're wiggling around, Focus more on your standing leg than anything else. If you already know your hamstrings are too tight or your hips are too tight, you can grab your knee here instead. Just see what happens. Go for the extension. And then next step, out to the side. Again, you don't have to have your legs straight. Just see what happens when you attempt the toe grab. Then your right arm extends when you're ready. Breathing is key. Come back through, arms to the sky, foot away from the mat. We're going to airplane pose. To intensify your airplane, you can clasp your hands behind your back. Everything lifts up a little bit higher. Your chest, your back foot. If you're like, no, thank you, you never have to. Just know that it's there. Let's go for half moon. Now, if you're lucky, your right hand will grab a prop. If your hand's all the way on the ground, you've got some extra work to do to try to lift your chest up, because you don't want to create like a roundness, like a rainbow shape. You want your chest nice and strong, or your back nice and strong, chest moving forward. Option is here for that sugar cane. You can bend your left foot, grab your left foot with your left knee bends. Kick into your hand to really open your hip flexor here. If you're not going for that, half moon can be plenty. We'll stay for 3, for 2. Gently release the pose back to a forward fold. Stand up for extended mountain. Hands to your heart. Let's do tree pose. Right foot against your left leg. So modifications for tree. You can have your foot a little bit lower to the ground. You can make a kickstand just like this. Foot against your shin, foot against your inner thigh. Those are awesome. Another level, if you're looking to intensify, is to add some height. So you can stand on a prop. Next level, you could reach your arms out, clasp them behind you. There are so many things you can do in tree to keep growing the pose. So go for something that feels like you right now, something you want to do in this posture. Breathe in. Breathe out. Reset both feet on the floor. Let's switch it up. Tree pose second side. Your variation. Kickstand, up on inner thigh. All of them are great. Balance a little higher. You do you. And maybe you have a different variation on this second side with your upper body. We'll stay for a few more breaths. Another inhale here. On your breath out, reset your feet. Let's move through a little flow. And I'll show you one more way to intensify. So when we're doing those sun A's and sun B's, every time you're at the top of your mat about to jump back, you can, if you want to, replace this halfway lift before the jump or step with a crow pose. So it looks something like this in the flow. Let's go with extended mountain. Take an inhale, reach up. Forward fold, reach down. Halfway lift or crow pose. Take a breath. On your exhale, jump or step, chaturanga. Just like that. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take your right foot to the top of your mat, warrior one. Open your body to the side, warrior two. From here, set up for side angle lunge. Side angle, I typically like to have my elbow resting on top of my thigh here. You have options for a prop. You can touch the floor if you still feel like you can keep your back nice and long. Option to intensify would be going for a half bind, your left arm behind your back, or a full bind, your right arm in front, poke your fingers behind you. No pressure, you can be here if that feels better. Next step, even if you are bound, straighten your front leg, triangle pose. So if you had this side angle before, you might have to adjust your bottom hand somewhere on your leg to keep you supported. Breathe out, lift up, and we'll set up for, what is that? Side facing wide-legged forward fold. Go ahead, facing the left edge of your mat, hinge forward. So many things you can do here. Just explore what you want to do. You can hook your big toes, draw down, have your hands in front of you like a down dog, hands behind you. Go for a headstand or clasped hands behind you. You can do ragdoll arms. I mean, honestly, any forward fold variation that you like. The only difference is your legs are wide here, so create something that works for you. You can also do firefly, an arm balance here. We'll stay for just a little bit longer so you can play. And then come on up to standing. We'll set up for pyramid pose. Turn to face the front of your mat. Grab your hip bones before you go and rotate so they're both facing straight forward. On your inhale, lengthen your chest forward. On your exhale, drop your chest and drop your hands. So modifications in this pose would be props underneath your hands, just so there's not as much pressure coming down. To intensify, you can continue scooting your back foot back and or walking your fingertips back. So honestly, all of those are great. I feel like this position, at least in my body, even the modification of hands on blocks, I would still be feeling quite a lot. So if you're feeling a stretch, awesome. No worries about which one you picked. All right, let's get set up for a chaturanga. So you can bend your front knee, hands down. Your option if you want to try the lifted foot with low hips. Let's go, chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Warrior one with your left foot forward. And then we open warrior two. Get ready for your side angle lunge. Take your left elbow to your thigh. Option to stay there or create the half bind or the full bind. So now we're gonna go for it. Even if you've got that bind, straighten your front leg, create a triangle position. If the bind was a lot, it kind of took you out of alignment here, you can always take it to a different dimension of the pose Definitely listen to the signals your body is sending. You don't want to force anything. You want to challenge for sure without the force. Come up to stand. We'll skip the wide-legged fold on this side. Go straight to your pyramid with your feet and your hips adjusted forward. Breathe to lengthen. Exhale to fold over. Use your breath to help you out. And there are actually a lot more intensifications I'm seeing as I'm here. You could keep scooting your back foot back far enough to where your heel pops up, and then you can switch it to where your left toes curl towards your face and your right heel is up off the mat. I know we didn't do that on the first side, but it's something to consider next time you're in this fold here. Exhale your air. Get ready for your chaturanga, your way. Let's go, chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Come into a plank position, and then we'll slow motion chaturanga down to the mat for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lay your belly down. Lay a cheek on the mat. If you need a cleansing breath, you can open your mouth and let it go. Turn your face the other way. Another chance to clear the air. And let's go for a locust pose. So pick any arms you want. Airplane, clasped, hands in front of you, and lift your chest, lift your legs. So if you ever need to modify, you can let your legs come down and use your hands to press your chest up. Just know that that's there. Again, you do want to challenge though, so feel that out. 3, 2, 1, release to the floor. One more round of locust. Go ahead, lift up. Squeeze your belly too. I know it's weird. See what happens. Reach back behind you. Bend your knees. Grab your feet or ankles and kick back. Floor bow. To modify, if it's hard to get both feet, you can take one side of your body, stretch it forward and back. This is just like dancer's pose, but you're on your belly. We'll call it belly dancer. All right, go ahead and exhale, lower your belly to the floor. One more time, floor bow. Again, the option is there. If you grab one at a time, then you would switch. Keep breathing, you got it. Can you lift up your ribs? Just one more rib off the floor. Exhale, come down, let go of your feet, move them back and forth. Create an upward facing dog. This might be your last official upward dog of class, so make it count. Push your hips up, downward facing dog. So another chance to practice intensifying. We're gonna go to bridge pose after this, but if you're really lucky and you have some yoga props, this might make the jumping through a little bit easier. So the jumping through to get to bridge, what you're trying to do is curl up tight into a little ball. You're trying to activate your core and pull in so much that you create the space for your body to jump through your hands. So the blocks just give you a little extra height. Like I said, if you're blessed with the blocks today, it might be a little bit easier. No matter what, take your hands a little wider than you typically do. So a wide down dog stance. We're gonna do the same thing we always do to jump through, just one difference here. You lift your heels, you bend your knees. When you're jumping through, crisscross your ankles on the jump. Here we go. Heels, knees, crisscross, pull up and jump through. So you're whoosh, trying to hug in tight as you go. So we'll try one more time. If you don't have the blocks, that's okay. There is a way to fake it, so let's try. Heels up high, bend your knees, crisscross your ankles. If you stop somewhere like this, you can like hop or wiggle through. Practice that contraction of your core. And then we lay back. Take your bridge pose. For bridge, you want your upper arm bones stacked underneath your body. Here you might be able to wiggle them a little closer together. This is what I would consider the standard variation. Modification would be a prop underneath your sacrum here. This would be our lazy bridge. To intensify, you would have no block. You can practice lifting and lowering your legs. You can practice pressing your hips up higher. As long as it feels okay for your low back, it's all good. We're going to stay for 2 more breaths. 1 more. Inhale deeply. Exhale, gently lower your back to the floor. Take a brief butterfly pose. Excuse me. So in your butterfly, this is still a tiny back bend, so this is a good way to come to neutral. We're going to do either 3 bridge push-ups with your hips going up and down, or 3 wheels, or wheel push-ups, or holding a wheel. So what I'm saying is you have options, but we're doing 1 more heart opener. So get your feet planted. If you're going for wheel, hands plant, maybe a little wider than your mat here, so pinkies off the mat. Let's breathe together. Exhale first. Inhale, drive your feet into the floor, wheel or bridge, either one. We'll stay for an inhale. Exhale, tap it down. Inhale, lift it back up, wheel or bridge. Exhale, tap. Inhale, go back up. Exhale, tap to the floor, butt or your head, whichever one. Inhale, final pose for wheel or bridge. Hold it and breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower, butterfly pose, and we will keep ourselves here for just a little bit longer than the last one. It might feel nice to place 1 hand on top of your heart, 1 over your belly. And something we don't really talk about is you can experiment with the distance that your feet are from your hips here. So it just changes the angle of the stretch. You might feel it a little differently with your feet out further away from you. Happy baby. Maybe you grab your feet, maybe not. It's all good either way. Definitely keep your shoulders and your tailbone pinned to the floor. So if you're kind of scrunching up into a little ball here, adjust your hands so your shoulders can relax. Take your feet to the floor. We're gonna set up for some abs here, starting with penguins. So go ahead and lift your shoulders off the mat. Keep your feet planted. Penguins, you're gonna create a waddling motion. So reach your right hand to your right toes, lean to that side, and then switch. So your shoulders are lifted and just keep switching for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lay back, give your knees a squeeze. Extend your legs up to the ceiling for waterfall. We'll do the next core work nice and short and sweet. So go ahead and lift your shoulders up again. Let your right foot drop down towards the floor. So this way right here, you can also take your hands behind your head. This way right here is the standard way to do it. We're gonna pulse up. The way to modify would be your right foot touches the floor. Let's go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lay back, hug your knees. Brief moment of rest. And then we come back, shoulders up. Now your left foot drops to the mat, maybe hovering, maybe touching the floor. Go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Knees into chest. Take yourself up and back a couple times. And then we will meet on our back, setting up for reclined half pigeon. So reclined half pigeon, your right ankle goes across your left thigh. You can reach through that figure 4 shape to grab the back of your left leg. This right here is a modification for regular half pigeon, where you're facing the floor with one leg extended long at the back. You'll notice this is simulating the front leg in half pigeon. The stretch is essentially the same, it's just your orientation to the floor is a little different. And in this variation, you don't get the hip flexor opening of your opposite leg. So if you do want to work on some of that, if this doesn't feel like quite enough for you, you can hold on to your front leg, take your bottom leg, and extend it out long on the floor. So again, you have some options here you can experiment with. For me, I'm feeling like this is quite a bit, so I'm gonna hold. Something I've been exploring in my own yoga practice is definitely listening to the teacher's instruction for sure, and kind of trying it on and seeing how it feels. And also giving myself that permission to do my own thing. So, you know, what I feel in my body on a certain day or in a certain pose might be different than what the room is feeling or what the teacher's feeling. And just know that that's okay to honor that. You don't have to just follow blindly by any means. You have your own teaching to give. Really, you are your own best teacher. Take your legs up into a waterfall. Notice the difference between your hips. I can definitely feel it right here. Let's switch to the other side. Now your left ankle takes the top position. Reach under, grab your right thigh. To modify this position too, if it's kind of tough to grab that bottom leg, you can use a towel or a strap just to make your arms a little bit longer. And I invite you to close your eyes in this pose and just listen to the sound of your breathing. You might discover that a different variation of the pose needs to happen when you're in more of an observation mode. And your left and right sides don't have to be identical either. So feel free to move how it feels right. All right, we'll come out of the pose here. Take a waterfall. Bend your knees, give yourself a little hug here. Make your way up to your seat. Might take a couple rolls back and forth. That's all good. Take a seated forward fold, legs out in front of you. Again, you can use a strap here. You can grab your feet. You need to intensify and you have props. You can use those as well. Let go of your fold. Set your body up for reverse tabletop. Press into the floor. Take your hips high. If it feels weird for your shoulders, maybe adjust your hands to a different angle. Everybody's a little bit different. On your breath out, lower down to the floor. Hug your knees in tight. Supine twist. Drop your knees over to the right side. Take your gaze to the left. And then we switch. There are lots of leg variations in supine twist as well. You can have straight legs, one leg bent, one straight. So if there's a favorite that you have, you're always welcome to take it. Come back to center, press your feet together. One more reclined butterfly. And then set up for Shavasana, your final resting pose. Your Shavasana could look just like laying flat against the floor. If you do have a prop and you feel like using it for a lazy bridge or for a waterfall for your resting position, you can also do waterfall on a wall for your rest. Do what feels the most easy, the easiest pose you can do right here. Breathe in through your nose. Let your mouth open. Let your body soften. So you and your body have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowing, even if you aren't fully sure how to listen to it yet. So if you keep showing up to yoga, you keep practicing, at a certain point you'll start to understand the basic mechanics of the poses. And the more you understand the basics, the more you can start to listen to which variation your body needs or how to move the pose around to suit you better. And there's never a wrong way. There are certainly safe ways, which is what I strive to give you guys in classes. But there's always room for you to explore what feels right to you. Start moving your fingers and your toes. Breathe a little deeper, maybe take a yawn. And the full body on. Let your arms stretch out, your legs stretch out. Squeeze your knees in close to you. Turn over to your right side for infant's pose. Press yourself to a seat. Any seat that feels comfortable. The great news is with these virtual classes, if you feel called to stay and rest a little longer, you can always do that. If you're ready to come out of your practice, let's meet with hands at heart center, and we will close out with one chant of Om. Exhale. Inhale. Draw your thumbs to meet your third eye. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. The light in me sees, honors, and loves the light in you. Namaste. Awesome job. I hope you learned something new in your practice. I hope you got to listen to your own needs today. I feel like doing more of those types of practices, just showing the ways to adjust the poses in the moment, so you guys have some more tools to work with. Yeah, we've got the class replays up on the YouTube channel. We're also getting ready to announce some cool stuff for CJJF in general, so stay tuned. We'll give you guys some announcements. Obviously, things are changing every day with the gym, and yeah, just getting ready to see you guys again. I miss you so much. I hope you'll go back and rewatch some classes, check out the app for some how-tos, and if you ever have requests, just drop them in the chat or put a comment on the page. Thank you for showing up. I am back again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. And just a heads up for next Tuesday night, we won't have yoga next Tuesday. It is my birthday, actually. Oh, good. Shannon and the girls, I'm so glad you could join. Yeah, absolutely. I love sharing yoga with y'all, even though I can't see you. I'm glad you're still having a good time. So yes, no Tuesday yoga, but there are plenty of classes to go back and replay if you need something special. I've been adding the, thank you. I've been adding the titles, like the intention of class, in the last few videos, so you can go back to your favorites if you had something that you enjoyed. Appreciate your time. Take care of yourselves, be well, and I will see you for the next class. Adios.